So, um, uh, if if we have to do the testing, so we get the requirement and we do the testing. We done the changes, but the QA team report us to we have the issue. Whether we don't know whether it is code issue or a data issue. How we need to proceed and how we need to find the solution. What is the solution for it? What is the procedure for it?
Okay, so like if QA team report any issue, like they will create the Jira ticket and they will add the details. Like suppose considering like my previous the application, so it will have like they will create the like users. So like suppose if they whenever they create any user, like if they found any issue with that particular user, so they will give the details. So they will give the user ID and as well as the like all the details, and also they will explain the flow like what they have tried. So what I will do is, so first I will so first I will go to the database and see like so as I know like what are all the like whenever if we do that flow, like what are all the flows will be executed and what are all the data will be populated in which table. So I will go through the table and see like whether the data is populated correctly or not, and also I will see the status like whether they are active or something like that. And so any amount anything like which need to be populated correctly, and also like suppose if there are any API calls going to any other applications, so then so I will monitor that also, like that is the first thing I will do from the database. So whether the data is present properly or not, and after that, like then so I will check the log. So at that time they have created the application. So I will go through the logs to see if any exception. So then like then at last, like I will so if I couldn't find the issue in the like the logs and as well as in the like database, then I will create the application to see like what was the issue. And so I will go to that module, like I will backtrack that module and see like so what should be the expected.
Okay,
And yeah, so I will.
okay, yeah, okay. So we have the requirement. Okay, we need to do that auto scalable for the based on the traffic. Okay, how to achieve that one?
Okay. So,
In
okay, auto scalable, okay, according to the traffic. So like the auto scalability, like it will be taken care of the the Eureka server, like whenever so it will create the instance, and once the so the thing is that like mostly these will be taken care of the our DevOps team. So they will do like they have this deployed it in the Kubernetes. So and they are using this so so I heard like once like Kubernetes will be taking care of having that feature, so where the Eureka server will provide, but mostly like they will be handling this scalability of the instances in the servers.
So, do you know any idea about circuit breaker?
Yes, I'm having idea. So circuit breaker is a to maintain resilience in the microservices architecture. So we will use the circuit breaker design pattern. So basically, like whenever if any instance is down, then so instead of like every time like the users hitting that microservice, so we will configure a fallback response. So where we will send the default response, where we will send the default response to let the user know like that particular service is down. And also like using the circuit breaker, like will configure like the upcoming request, it should not be going to that particular microservice. And also like And also the circuit breaker, it will periodically it will check whether the service is up or not, like maybe based on the or configuration. And also the circuit breaker, it provide like the rate limiting, like whenever if any malicious user trying to hit an endpoint, n number of times per a second, or like for a minute, then based on that, like it will not allow the other requests from that user. So these are like some of the uses of the circuit breaker design pattern.
Okay, in your application, which server it will be running on last project?
Yeah, it is Tomcat server only.
Okay, so which environment we are using, AWS or PCF? Which one you are using?
We are using AWS.
Okay, you are using AWS. So you have an idea of Lambda expression in AWS?
Uh, no, actually, I'm having so AWS mostly the DevOps will be taking care of that. But I have some like idea on this EC2 instance and the RDS database and the like uh, some
Okay.
other service.
Okay,
Cognito I'm having. Yeah.
I pinged in chat box one thing.
Okay.
Can you look at that?
Okay.
So string name equal to Pradeep and name equal to Pradeep Varun. I will print name. So what is the output?
Okay. So. It will print Pradeep Varun.
Okay. Why?
Mm.
Because of string is immutable, right? But why it is printing Pradeep Varun?
Yes, so even the string is immutable, like, but if we try to create a new instance for that, so it will not update the existing instance. So what it will happen is it will create a new object. So in this case of like name equal to Pradeep Varan, it will create a new object in a different location, and it will assign the value Pradeep Varan. So the existing which is the Pradeep, so it will remains the same.
Okay, so I have the file. Okay, so I have the of 1 millions of file will be there in my every time my application running. So it's reading the 1 million of file.
Okay.
So it will be read the file from our application from our code.
Okay.
So if I use a string, if every time it will be reading the one by line means it will be creating the new space in the heap memory or string pool, right? So it will
Yeah.
be causing that issue. Performance issue will be occurrence. It's definitely it will occurrence. So what is the solution for these things?
So in that case, we can use the string buffer. So which is the thread safe for reading the multiple lines so that and also like it will not so since it is a string buffer, it is not immutable, so it is mutable, so it will use the existing objects only instead of creating the new object.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain that in exception hierarchy?
Sorry, exception.
Exception hierarchy.
So the exception hierarchy, we have the throwable class. So and after that, we have the exception class having two types. Like we have the exceptions and the error. And so in the exceptions, we have checked and unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions are where we can handle those exceptions, and we can suppose we can the null pointer exception, we can handle those, and unchecked exceptions are where we need to declare that so that whenever if in the runtime, so if we didn't handle, so we'll get that unchecked exception. And so once based on the declaration, it will be handled, we will declare it by the in the for that method we will declare it.
Okay. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Ah, Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, um, I, we say that in the checked exception and checked exception, right?
Okay.
So, I received the timeout exception for in timeout. I received the timeout exception. It is a kind of a sequence exception. So, it will be come to compile or runtime.
Okay, so the timeout exception, so it will come at runtime only.
Okay, it is runtime only. So,
Okay.
SQL. Okay, file not found exception.
So file not found exception. Okay, so that means like we have declared a path, and if the file is not found, uh, uh, that is okay. That is like compile time.
Okay, okay. Uh, what is a conditional expression annotation?
So conditional expression annotation in Spring, so it is used to like so it will to make the Spring to create a bean like based on the condition. Like whenever if we suppose if we want to like there is a condition like in the property file. So based on that, like if the condition is true, then only if we want to create a bean, otherwise we should not create a bean like that. So in that case, like we can add the conditional annotation. So when we like inject the bean, so on the auto-add annotation, like we can apply the at the rate conditional. And so for that conditional, like we need to provide the I think the class like where we will implement that. So in that class, like we will declare we will declare that condition. So I think we need to implement conditional, and so we will implement the logic saying that like we will fetch the property from the any property files, and then so we will once if we return true, then only the conditional will work. Otherwise, then only the object if we return true, then only like the object will be like the object will not be created, otherwise the object will be created by the Spring. Yeah.
Okay, what is lazy annotation?
Lazy annotation, like so like whenever if we create an object so whenever if we fetching some data from the database, like if we apply lazy annotation on any particular field, like suppose the customer, we are fetching the customer data from the database, and if we apply if the customer having address dependency, and if we apply the lazy annotation on the address, then like whenever if we try to fetch the data from the database, then the address will not be loaded. So like only when we try to access that only when we try to access that address object, then only the addresses will be loaded. So this is for like the fast reading of the data from the database that we can use in that.
Okay, I send one thing for
Okay.
you in the chat box. So
Okay.
if I compile this code, what will happen?
Okay. List, list, list.add. Okay. Where the next here list mm, dot add test and OP. Uh, so I think in this case it will return like the concurrent modification exception. So since in the for loop, so when we are iterating from that list, we are trying to add a new element into that list object.
Okay.
Yeah.